Here is certainly the largest, the most significant, and the most complete collection of electronic musical instruments in the world. Now, one can understand the significance of this on many different levels. Most obvious level, of course, is the technology. Here's where transistors were, here's where vacuum tubes were, the integrated circuit had such and such an effect, and so on. And that's okay, that's interesting enough. One can understand it in terms of the development of modern music and what sort of sounds are used. Aha, here's the voltage-controlled oscillator, and here's square wave modulation, and this is the first time that such sounds could have been heard. I'd like to tell you my perspective. It's different from either of those two things. I began in the electronic musical instrument business in 1954. I was 19 years old at the time. I began building theremins, and in 1964 I began building synthesizers. How did I begin building synthesizers? Well, a musician came to me and said, "Do you know anything about electronic music?" It sounds like a silly question today, but it wasn't a silly question then. Most people didn't. But I said yes, and I sort of learned on the job from there. As it turns out, other people were learning the same thing, were getting the same knowledge by thinking about the needs of musicians and by using their imaginations. There was Don Buchla on the West Coast, there was Harold Boda, and there were any number of other musicians around the world, some of which I probably haven't even met today. How is it that we all got basically the same idea at the same time? How is it, for instance, that Don Buchla and I both thought of the 4-part envelope generator at the same time? Actually, we didn't think of it. Vladimir Usichevsky at the Columbia-Princeton Electronic Music Center thought of it and shared his ideas with us, and we built the first ones for him. Now, in past years, it's been popular to think of the imagination as something that an individual possesses. You know, I imagine such and such a thing. I am the creator of such and such an idea. Well, if that's true, how is it that more than one people imagines the same thing at roughly the same time? The answer is in notions that are very popular and prevalent among New Age people today. And that is that the imagination, rather than being the property of one individual person, is really something that ties all of us together. The imagination is a network that is independent of space and independent of time. And the people who display some imagination are people who are tied in with this network, who are able to be tied in. I'm very grateful that for certain periods in my adult life, I have been tied in to the celestial network that ties all of our imaginations together, and I was able to tap in to the knowledge that has become part of our main musical culture. The collection here at the Museum of Synthesizer Technology is a way of understanding this network. You can't see it, you can't touch it, you can't prove that it exists, other than by what comes out of people's heads. What you see down there are solid manifestations of people exercising their imaginations, of picking information off this network. It's been going on for centuries, for as long as mankind has been in existence, and it will continue to go on. And I'm very happy to see it's documented so thoroughly in this period from 1960 to 1994 with all this analog hardware. Thank you, Martin, and thank you all for your interest. I will officially open the Museum of Synthesizer Technology. The museum is now open. Welcome and enjoy.